don't need a group. But I know from my own personal experience that something does happen when you're physically with others joining. I don't really know what that is. And to me, the Easter celebration it is about resurrection. For those of you who know me as a teacher, you know that I love to disrupt the time pattern of the linear, like past and present and future. And so it can be like a great gift that you give to yourself to come out to Utah. I believe that that's actually what the physicalness of it is. It's not the space of Utah. It's that you are disrupting your own routine. And you're saying, I'm going. And when you say you're going, it sends a signal out. And things begin to rearrange themselves. And so I want to just invite you to that. I'm also going to be in Denmark for you guys who are online. Bill and I are actually not going to be here. I'm not going to be here for the next 2 weeks. Bill and I won't be here for next week. I'm then going to Denmark. And I'm doing a one-day workshop on February 18th on a Saturday from 9 to 4. So you guys out there, if you guys want to come, plane tickets, you can get to Denmark. And just the final thing is the 40-day program is available all the time now. So just tell your friends, you guys watching, you can sign up whenever you're ready to make a So I'm just going to open up with a prayer. And my prayer this morning is very simple. And it comes from Jesus from A Course in Miracles. He gave this to Helen Schuckman back in the 1960s. And all those messages are to us. And he flips prayer right on its head because we think of prayer as asking for things. But prayer is actually a way to reach to God. It's a way to remember the truth of what you are. And so Jesus says that you should begin each day with this prayer: help me to perform whatever miracles you want of me today. And that's my prayer. That's my prayer, that we remember that we're here as miracle workers, we're here as light workers, and we're here really to serve the Great Awakening, that we're here to bring God's peace and his joy and his love to all the places we go, all the people we meet. And Jesus, it's so great because he says, invite them to come. Invite the lonely, the suffering, the sad to come, because you carry God's peace with you. And so that's our prayer. And now this is a place of celebration on Friday mornings. And so if all of you could rise and meet each other in love, in greetings, seeing the Christ in the other. watching. We love you. And Nancy Fitzgerald and Diane drove down together. So thank you so much for that. And I'm so excited that we have a special guest in the house, and her name is Lori Stoico, and she's going to come up. I know, right? And you guys don't know Lori, but Lori is on the Teachers of God Foundation team, and I've never actually met her in person. And she does so many awesome behind the scenes stuff. She takes care of every little editorial thing that we need. She's like, and people really don't realize what goes on behind the scenes to make it look effortless. And she's gonna, and what's funny is that come on up here, Lori. She came, when I saw her this morning, I went, oh my God, so good to see you again. And she goes, we've never met. I said, no, I know we have. I never forget a face, never. And I said, no, we definitely have met. She goes, no, we definitely have not. I said, no, we definitely have. And then she said, we met on Skype. I said, no, we met in person. And then I said, what's your name? And then she said, Lori Stoico. And then I said, oh, okay, we have not met in person. So I'm so excited that you're here. And she's going to lead us in the meditation from the Cafe Gratitude calendar book.
Thank you, Lisa. So it's very funny because the lines do blur, right? I feel like I know all of you because I watch the live stream after the fact. So it does feel like we all know each other, and we probably do. So so let's take a moment and read from Cafe Gratitude. I'm going to read the words of Oprah Winfrey, who is just the biggest light in the world as far as I'm concerned. And she says, you are what you are by what you believe. And that's pretty awesome, right? It's what the Course talks about, really. I mean, what we think is what we are in this world. And if you're feeling in any way bad about what you think, those thoughts, then you just have to remember to change your mind, because there's no need to stay in that ever, even for a moment. So I'll move on to the meditation for today, and it's, to whom can you give thanks? And so think about that for a moment. And so I would say for me, it's anyone that is in front of you at any moment of every day, of every week, of every month, of every year. Those are the people that you give thanks to because they are you. And so take that opportunity every single time. And it's just a remembering. And so you have to stop and you have to remember. And it's that simple. And so I say amen, and I love you all.
Okay, so I'm so happy to be here. I'm going to do a couple of things today, and I really want to go over a section from chapter 5 in A Course in Miracles, and it's amazing. It really gives the entire formula for healing in one simple little practice, and that's really what A Course in Miracles does. And the reason I wanted to read this, I posted a thing about the new version of A Course in Miracles that has come out from the Circle of Atonement. And it's done by Robert Perry and a whole huge team of people that took them 10 years to put this together. It includes all of Helen Schuckman's original notes. I didn't think I was going to be interested in it when I first picked up a copy. Bill ordered a copy for me and one copy for him, and he just kept for 1 week saying, oh my God, this is amazing. Oh my God, this is amazing. And I was like, oh, whatever. I've read every version of A Course in Miracles, and I just thought, I'm really not interested in another version. I'm just not. I've read the original manuscripts, and he kept coming into the room every day, and he would say, oh my God, listen to this. And he would read it, and I would just be like, yeah. And I really wasn't that interested. Every day for, several days, he kept coming into the room I was in and read me something else. And I would think, I've heard that before. And that's what the mind does. The mind really always says, I've heard that before. And then he told me this one thing about healing. I said, where is that? He said, it's in chapter 5 called The Decision for God in here. And I had never heard that before, what he said. And I was in the bathtub one night, and he comes in and he hands me the book. I'm like, he goes, I found it. I found the section you wanted. And I read it. And I was like, oh my God, it makes so much sense. And I thought he gave me his copy of the book. And when I got out of the bathtub, I said, where's my copy of the book? He goes, that is your copy. And I thought that was very brilliant, that he put my own copy in my own hands. Very clever and very smart, Bill Free. And it really, to me, again, you can use whatever version you want, but many people have, over the years, and myself included, said this is difficult, it doesn't make any sense, it's complicated, I don't get it, who wrote this? And what I believe, having seen this, is that there were huge chunks of material left out. And I gave total gratitude for the Foundation for Inner Peace for 50 years of dedication and putting this book in the world. And they did the best that they could. But I truly do believe, and I don't believe that they did anything intentionally to leave things out. Like, they really did the best that they could to follow the notes. But what the Circle of Atonement and Robert Perry did was go back to the original notes that Helen had and put it exactly as it was. And it's got all the personal notes in the back. It does have a little bit of interpretation in the bottom, which was one of the reasons I was initially turned off, because I don't like other people's interpretation. I just want the straight message. It has references from the Bible. So where Jesus says something, Becky's going, because you have a copy too, and Bonnie has a copy. And to me, it really only is for anybody who's dedicated their life to this message. That's kind of how I see it right now. And I'm going to talk about that today. I'm going to talk about that this does require a lifetime commitment. And recently we did a workshop at our house. It was live stream on a Saturday. And Monica, you said something that I absolutely loved. She came up and did, and it still is available in recording if anybody would like a copy of this. I think it was like 2 hours or 1 hour. I can't remember exactly how long. I think it was a 2-hour workshop. Yeah, 1 to 3. And Monica came up at the end, and you said that people come to you and say, how long do I have to give to this work? And you said, for the rest of your life. And that's what it is. This is for the rest of your life. And people always want some sort of a fast track, right? We want to be able to just do it fast and get to the results, but that's not really what's being called for right now. This really is a lifetime commitment of service to dedicate your life to healing and to forgiveness and to love. And we're already all dedicated to something. We're dedicated to pain and suffering, and you're already going to be here for life, right? We're already here for life. So you're going to be dedicated to something. And so many people, when they first hear that this is a lifetime 100% commitment, think, oh, that is not what I want. But if you actually think about it, it becomes something you do want to do. It becomes something that's your passion. And when I was 8 years old, I wrote a letter to Santa Claus, 1976. I have the letter. I don't have it here with me today, but I'm going to find it. And my mother was clearing out her house 10 years ago when she was moving. It was our childhood house that I grew up in with my sisters and my mom and my dad. And this letter is 40 years old. It's like parchment paper now. And it says, "Dear Santa, I've been a very good girl. Please give me 12 pencils and some paper and I'll give you 5 cents. The cookies and the milk, they're for you. Love, Lisa." And to me, this letter has everything in it. And it has in what I'm going to talk about today of how healing is accomplished. But the first thing it has in it is already at 8 years old was my passion for writing. I'm 8 years old and all I want is 12 pencils and some paper. 8 years old, you could ask for anything, right? It's Santa. You can have anything you want. And all I wanted was 12 pencils and some paper. And also included in the letter is the first error. And I'm sure the error in my thinking came before this point. But by 8 years old in 1976, I'm already bargaining. I'm already in exchange. Please give me 12 pencils and some paper and I'll give you 5 cents. So already 8 years old, I'm not worthy enough to just have something be given to me. I have to exchange. I have to bargain. And also in the letter is the generosity. There's cookies and there's milk for you. And I think in the letter I said they're for the reindeer too. So it's like that letter contains everything in it. And what you want to begin to do is to find for yourself what's the thing you love to do. Each and every one of you in this room has a gift, several gifts, a passion, and it was there in your childhood. The other day I was talking to Linda, and Linda was saying to me, if I could just, I don't even know how you said it, but you said there's 3 things you love to do: reading, writing, and cooking. All day. That's what you said. If I could do it, that's what you said. You said if I could do anything all day, it would be reading, writing, and cooking. And that's what you should do. That is exactly what you should do. Linda's working on a food book and a food program, and she keeps pushing it to the back. Life keeps getting in front of it, right? But that's the thing that's calling you, because that's what makes you alive. And that's what I wanted today to be about. That's how you make a lifetime commitment. You find out what you're going to be dedicated to. And last night, Bill and I were watching this video by this guy named Bo Eason. And most of you know I'm in love with Brendan Burchard. He's my sort of leadership teacher. And one of the teachers that Brendan had on last night, his name's Bo Eason. He was a NFL football player, and brilliant, totally brilliant. And he tells the story of being dedicated for his entire life to being the best at what he did. What was it that he wanted to be the best at, Bill? The best safety. That's what it was. I don't know football very well, so I don't know the terms, but he wanted to be the best safety in the world. And starting at 10 years old, his father would get Bo out of bed, and every single day, Bo had to run backwards. Every day. That's all Bo did. He trained every day to run fast backwards. So while all his friends were running forward, he was running back. And he tells this great story of how it took him 20 years of running backwards to become the best, to make it into the NFL. And he was expressing the same thing I'm expressing today, that you have to be willing to put years in. Many people just say, okay, I want happiness and I want more money and I want this and I want it now. But would you be willing to do it if it required the next 10 years of your life, or 20 years of your life, or 30 years of your life? Who in here would do that? everybody. Oh. And that's what it takes. Like when I look at my own path, I got A Course in Miracles in 1992. It mostly sat on my shelf until in 2000, pretty much. I mean, what was that? Oh. And in 2000, I had been working in a New York City publishing office for 10 years. It was a very good job. It was a job that was completely surprising that I got it. I was a small town girl from New Hampshire, and I beat out 800 applicants to get that job back in 1992, and scared, terribly scared that they were going to find out that I was just this small town girl from New Hampshire and that I wasn't actually trained to work in a New York City publishing house. But they didn't find out. I kept being there, and they kept giving me promotions, and they kept giving me more money. And I remember thinking, okay, I guess I'm here. But what happened during those 10 years is that there was this fear every single day that they're going to find out that they hired the wrong person and they're going to fire me. Every day it was just fear that there's going to be someone better than me, and they're going to realize they made a mistake. And so because of the fear, every day, even though all my friends and my family, like looking at the appearance of my life, thought she has it made. I was traveling. I was in New York City. I had a great apartment. I had this great job in publishing. So the picture made people think Lisa's got it made. But you all know, like when people think you've got it made, what it feels like inside. And because of the fear, I drank. I drank and I smoked cigarettes, and I felt like I have to keep this house of cards together. So every day was efforting, was working really hard to hold it together. And finally, you just get really tired from trying to hold it together, right? And so in 2000, July 4th, 2000, I stood in my living room in Brooklyn, and I called out to God. And I didn't even believe in God. And that's why I love teaching this message so much, because I know you don't have to believe in God. But you do have to invite something new into your experience. That's what I know to be true. And I said, God, if you're there, I'm all yours. I'm all yours. See, I'm in for life. That was 17 years ago. 17 years ago. And I have not stopped with that commitment. And there are so many times I have wanted to quit. You have no idea. Because so many times it doesn't look like it's working. It just looks like I signed up to work for God. I signed up to dedicate my life to love. Why am I struggling? But there's something about signing up for life that just makes you just stand in the discomfort. And what Bo Eason said last night on this talk, he said, do you know who the most powerful guys in prison are? Does anybody know? The most powerful guys in prison are the lifers, the ones who are in for life, because they're not going anywhere. They're the ones with all the power. And he said it's the same with marriage. When you're in a marriage and you're in for life, you have all the power because you're not going anywhere. And you are going to stand in that spot in the discomfort. And that's what this work is for miracle workers. That's what this is. And what does that mean to be a miracle worker? I loved what you said, Monica, a few weeks ago, that it includes the word work. It's work. Being a light worker is actual work. And it's not hard work, but the work is that you are so aware every single moment of the things that seem to be happening in front of you, and you're taking responsibility for them. And you're using the situation only for healing. No more blaming, no more storytelling about what other people are doing. This is what it is to be a miracle worker. That you're standing and you're saying, okay, this situation is in front of me, There's something in it for me. There's something in it that I need to release in my mind, and that's all we're here for. So it's actually quite easy. It's quite an easy thing to do. So I wanted to read this section because it's just so amazing. This book is so heavy. Oh my gosh. It's so big. It's very big. I think I might have to sit down for it. It's so big. Can we get your chair? I have one.
You want the mic stand?
No, I got this. Let's see. This is chapter 5. This is so funny too, because when I posted the thing on Facebook, all my friends in Europe and Australia can't get copies of it because they're not shipping it yet to other places outside of the US. And so they know I'm coming to Denmark. So I got like 10 requests to carry 10 copies of the book to Denmark, which I'm not going to do. I'm carrying a couple, but they are shipping from this Circle of Atonement. Let's see. Hold on. What'd you say? Yeah, right. Where is it? Hold on. Okay, here we go. So this is called The Decision for God. And it says, there have been many healers who did not heal themselves. They have not moved mountains by their faith because their faith was not whole. Some of them have healed the sick at times, but they have not raised the dead. Unless the healer heals himself, he does not believe that there is no order of difficulty in miracles. So this is our work, right? I know. Circle of Atonement, guys. So this is our work, that we're going to heal ourselves now. This is what we're going to dedicate our lives to, that we are dedicated to healing. We are dedicated to seeing the blocks and the obstacles that are in our mind that are blocking the awareness of love's presence, and we become dedicated to healing those blocks. And how do you do it? Total faith, total trust. You know, yesterday we got together. We have what we call video day to do some of the blogs for the Teachers of God Foundation, and the one that I did was on trust. And I'm reading this just great little book that someone sent me in the mail. I have no idea who sent it still. It's called Lovingly in the Hands of the Father by Evelyn Whittle. Any of you guys? Did you send it? No. Oh. And I was reading one chapter a day, and I read the other night the final story in the book. And it's just this beautiful story about how you must have faith in God, faith in people, and faith in situations. And in the story, this woman, she thought she had faith in God, but she didn't have faith in people. She didn't have faith. She was a woman who ran a boarding house, and she had all these people in the house that were not paying their rent. And she was seeing that she kept saying they're never going to pay the rent, but she couldn't kick them out. She felt sorry for all of them. And she didn't have faith in the situation. And so she started to really look at this idea of that she said she had faith in God, but she didn't. She had no faith in God that the situation was going to work out. She did not have faith in these people to pay their bills. And so this is the work of the miracle worker, to really look at, like, do you have perfect trust and perfect faith in God? No matter what's happening, you know that God is with you. You know that you're perfectly protected. And do you have faith in people? And this is the sticking point for many people, because if you don't have faith in people, you don't have faith in God. It's that simple. It's the same. You say, I trust God. Well, do you trust that guy? No, you don't trust God then. Like, it's a very simple equation. And so, like, how, and this is where I would love to hear from you also. Like, I want for you to look at the places in your life where you are not trusting that person. You just say, they are never going to do what I want them to do. They are never going to get out of this state of being unkind or whatever, that you don't have faith in them. And faith in the situation, that no matter what, you have faith in this situation. That you just trust so much that you're just in an unfolding, or you're being led, and you're saying, I trust. I trust that when you ask for things to change and you lose your job or you lose your relationship, you trust. You said, I know that this is happening perfectly, and I'm not going to change anything. And so that's what we're doing here. There have been many healers who did not heal themselves. They have not moved mountains by their faith, because their faith was not whole. So it says, he has not learned that every mind that God created equally worthy of being healed, because God created it whole. You are asked merely to return to God the mind as he created it. Love that. You are asked merely to return to God the mind as he created it. So the mind that most of us use is filled with thoughts about time and space and lack and difficulty and problems and sickness. And this is saying, you are merely asked to return the mind to God as he created it. So what does that mean? It means that you're going to say, okay, wow, I'm like using my mind to think all of these thoughts, but I want to see differently. I want to be in a space where I'm healing, where I am healed and I am healing. And I'm merely asked to return the mind to God as he created it. That literally will be the end of all your thoughts, won't it? If you were to return the mind to God, and you were to just say, okay, wow, you can say it's my brain or whatever, but you start to notice, wow, I'm thinking all these thoughts all day long. And all of a sudden, you're like, no, this isn't my mind. My mind is part of God's mind. I'm returning the mind to God. It's like returning it back to the store, right? You're just saying, okay, it's faulty. And you're taking it back. You're saying, okay, and when you take something back to the store that's faulty, you don't have it anymore, right? So it's not in your possession. You say this is broken, and you take it back. Customer service, and you give it back, and you say, okay, this thing is really not working. And they're like, okay, yes, 100% guarantee, like LL Bean, right? If any time during your lifetime you discover that the thing isn't what you bought, take it back, and they'll take it back, right? And they'll replace it. Yeah, they replace it. And so that's what this is. So now, and this is why it is all or nothing. Jesus is very, very clear in A Course in Miracles that there is no middle place where you can linger between the two thought systems. You have to choose, and he says that too. It doesn't just happen. You have to actively choose for the thought system that you want to live in. And you choose the feelings you want to experience. You choose. You say, okay, today's the day. Today's the day when I let go of the past, when I return the mind to God. He asks you only for what he gave, knowing that this giving will heal you. Love it. So you giving your thoughts and your mind back to God is giving. That is the most generous act you will ever do in your life. That's giving. And what does Jesus say about giving? Giving and receiving are one. So when you give your thoughts over, you say, I don't want them anymore. I don't want them anymore. They're not working. Take them. And of course, see, what's so incredible too is now you get to really look and see if you really want to give it back now. Now you really have a choice. And most people don't want to give it back. They don't. They want to hold on to their grievances. They want to hold on to their story because they don't know what will come. And I did a radio show with my friend Max. It airs today. We talk about Donald Trump. Not controversial at all, but Max said this great thing on the show. I was telling him about some of the messages in the 40-day program, how some of the people there say, I'm sitting quietly and I can't find peace. It's not working for me. And I told Max about that. I said, that was me for a long time. For 10 years, I kept saying, I want the peace of God. And I couldn't find it. I couldn't access it. It wasn't coming. I was only in conflict. And Max said on the show that Werner Erhard said that the first step is to be authentic about your inauthenticity. And what that means is that you need to get honest about how you're being inauthentic. You don't actually want peace. Just admit it. Just okay, you're saying it, but you don't really want it. And that's the first step in the change occurring, where you can really see, I actually, and that was my turning point. When I realized that I thrived on conflict because it was all that I knew. And when I admitted that I loved conflict, I loved stirring the pot. I loved it. I loved when I could really find something that I could hold against a brother and be right. Loved it. And when I finally saw that and admitted it, and I could see it clearly, that's when you see you really don't want it anymore. But you must come to that place, and it says, he asks only for what he gave, knowing that this giving will heal you. Sanity is wholeness, and the sanity of your brothers is yours. Why should you listen to the endless, insane calls which you think are made upon you when you know the voice for God himself is in you? God commended his spirit to you and asks that you commend yours to him. And that's what I did in July 4th, 2000, in my apartment in New York City. I commended my spirit to God. And it says, God commended his spirit to you and asks that you commend yours to him. So I commend my spirit to you. Welcome, Al. I was wondering when you were going to show up. I was thinking about you all the way down here this morning. I don't know why. Al in the house. Surrounded by beautiful ladies, I see. That's hilarious. Always. He wills to keep it in perfect peace because you are of one mind and spirit with him. Excluding yourself from the atonement is the ego's last-ditch defense of its own existence. It reflects both the ego's need to separate and your willingness to side with this separateness. This willingness means that you do not want to be healed. In the past, even though you wanted release, You were not able to cope with it at the time, but the time is now. You have not been asked to work out the plan of salvation yourself, because as I told you before, the remedy for what you have made is not of your own making. God himself gave you the perfect correction for everything you have made, which is not in accord with his holy will. This is Jesus. He says, I have made his plan perfectly clear and perfectly explicit to you, and have also told you of your part in his plan and how urgent it is that you fulfill it. So you might be sitting here thinking, he hasn't told me of his plan, and he hasn't told me of my part. Okay, who feels that way? Who here knows their part in God's plan? Okay, and no shame here, but who doesn't? Okay, good. And see, this is the kind of honesty that's required. To not think you know something. In every moment to have an I don't know attitude, that's all power. You say, I don't know. I don't know my part. I don't know his plan. And then it can be given to you. But as long as you're acting like you know and you don't really know, nothing can happen. But as long as you're open like a child and just say, I actually don't know what my part is. And he tells you in this section, actually, but Jesus in A Course in Miracles says in many different ways, in many different places, your part is to be happy. That's it. Your part is to be happy. That's your purpose. That's your function. You don't have to go do big things. Your part is to be happy. Your part is to remember God. That's it. And so and what's cool about this book, and more, I'm finding myself telling people that this is a course. This isn't a book, it's a course. It's a course you take. It's got 3 sections, it's got a text, it's got a workbook which takes 1 year to complete, has a manual for teachers, and it is a course in how to know yourself. It is a course in remembering your identity and remembering God. And so by the time Jesus says in chapter 5, I have made his plan perfectly clear and perfectly explicit to you, and have also told you of your part in his plan and how urgent it is that you fulfill it. I will bet any amount of money it's in the section before what I just read. I'm positive. I'm positive Jesus put it in chapter 1 or 1 to 5 somewhere, because he says here, I have told you. And he also, then when he says in this course, I have told you many times. So what I really love to do as a teacher is to say, commit to doing this. Just make a commitment and do it. And this is what I was saying earlier. Who cares if it takes you 10 years or 15 years? Just begin it. Say, I am doing this. And this is what Bo Eason was talking about last night. He was talking about the best in the world. He was saying, he's talking to a group that are part of an elite group that want to be the best speakers in the world. And so he's challenging people to say, okay, I want you to choose something that you're going to be the best in the world at. And he says, I don't care about mediocrity. Mediocrity bores me. He goes, I want to know that you are going to commit yourself to being the best at something. And each and every one of you has gifts and skills and abilities that no one else has. And you become the best at something. And to become the best at something, you have to train for it. You don't just wake up and then you're the best. Like you're out on the field, you're studying, you're learning, you're with other teachers who are helping you what they know. And so to me, that's the excitement of this, is where you're saying, okay, wow, I am going to make a commitment now to knowing this message. If that's what's calling to you. and then just begin it. And it says, there is time for delay, but this need not be. God weeps at the sacrifice of his children who believe they are lost to him. The one more thing that you must learn is merely that you are not the one more. You are both one and at one. If you will learn this now, you will be willing in accord with the last judgment, which is really only the biblical reminder of the inevitability of self-inclusion. And this is what physician heal thyself really means. So what Jesus says is the physician, the great healer, is the Christ within. So that's where you should be looking. That's where you need to be really looking. And I just invite you really to use this in whatever area of your life is a problem right now. Because more and more I am stepping into this place where I'm seeing that Jesus means what he says. Physical healing, healing on all levels. Everything you need for the journey comes to you without you even asking for it, because you have commended your spirit to him. So you can't be on the fence anymore. And what I always do is invite you to experiment with this idea. Find an area in your life that's difficult for you right now, where there's sickness or limitation or lack. Does everyone have something you're thinking about? Yeah, I'm all set. I already knew you were all set, Becky. And I now invite you to give this a fair trial. I invite you to start working with the great physician. And this is, to me, this is the only thing that the Course in Miracles is about, is that you are now acknowledging that you are not alone. Want to share something, Nancy?
I'm hearing you and agreeing with what looks to me like two different tracks, and I'm not sure quite how the two tracks come together. One is, I know my purpose is being happy and being at peace and being a light. Okay, got that. Okay, then there's the other part of it that feels like it's more in the world, like, what am I supposed to be best at? Or what's my next? What do I commit to? And since where I am in my life, I don't feel like I have to commit to anything to keep my livelihood going. It feels kind of like it kind of floats. And it's not that I can't sort of be in both places. It's just that it does still feel like there's sort of a parallel track, and they aren't quite the same. To be the best in the Bo Easton sense and to be happy, to me, don't necessarily mean the same thing.
I think that what you said first, all that's it right there. You don't need another track right now. Yeah, you know, be happy and be the light. I mean, why do you need another track?
Well, I keep hearing that message from other places.
Well, to me, what's interesting to me, knowing you, Nancy, is you are the best. Like you are completely committed. You left your life in Florida. So in all of us, like, we do actually make these commitments, and sometimes we're not aware of them. And what you're saying is true, is like the simplicity of this. And forgive me if I'm giving what seems to be contradictory messages here, because this isn't about being something in the world. To me, when I say be the best, for me, what it means is like going into that training, like really standing with Jesus. This is just for me. And he says, greater things will you do than I did, because I go unto the Father. And I think to myself, and for me, it brings up all my self-doubt. Like how I say, okay, I really want to teach and I want to heal and I want to do the things that Jesus did. And I think, how arrogant. Like, how arrogant. And then Jesus is saying, no, that's ego. And so to me, it's coming into this place where you have made a commitment. Have you not? Yeah.
Yeah, and it keeps growing. I mean, pieces of it keep appearing and coming in and out in different ways.
Yep. And to me, what it is when, and again, when I really say, okay, what does this mean for me? It brings me a clarity. That's all it does. It brings me a focus. It brings me a clarity. It gets rid of like all the distractions. It brings me into a place so for me, it's writing. I found out when I was like, what if you went back to your childhood, what would it be that you love to do?
I loved the home economics kind of thing, the cooking, the sewing, the making, the doing, but then I also liked school. So maybe that's part of the problem. I like lots of things, and so to be able to figure out where I'm headed or what I'm doing doesn't drop right in for me. Except day by day, in which case, okay, today I'm going to go do this.
I have the same thing. I have many, many different interests, and I totally play with them all.
This is a great topic. I was thinking the exact same thing you were, Nancy. When in this discussion about being the best, I'm thinking, well, you know, in all the great spiritual traditions, you hear about being comes before doing. So which field, you know, the tracks, you know, what field when you're saying the best or does it apply to? And being, I mean, if you can be the best, loving, whatever it is, I think the doing kind of reveals itself. I'm pretty good at music and coming up with things. You know, that's a doing thing for me that's pretty good. You wouldn't put me in that field when it comes to cooking at all. So these things, they kind of reveal themselves. I think where it gets contaminated is when pressure comes from the outside that kind of contains the idea of ought to. That just robs it of the meaning. We sometimes, because I used to trouble myself over the idea of being the best, all that I can be. And then I'm trying to, oh my God, I hope I don't make a selection error. There's some things I need to choose from. But the more that I find working on being the best that I can as a loving person rather than fear-based, these things just show up. I don't have to work at finding out and toil over, well, what do I have to do to be the best at whatever it is? I don't know if that makes sense.
That makes total sense, and I'm so glad you said it. This chapter, it was in the Circle of Atonement version. Chapter 5 is called Being Wholly Joyous. So what you said makes perfect sense because being comes before doing. And so being, and that's a place where we're saying, okay, what am I going to be? What am I being? And normally before the transformation, we're being bodies. We're being the best at being bodies. We're being the best at being sick. We're being the best at being in competition. We're being the best at being judgmental. We're being the best at being that. And now we're being the best at being the light of the world. So we're simply just really looking at this in a new way. And I'm not talking about worldly things unless there's something in you that really inspires you. Like really is, and it won't feel like effort. And so I thank you for bringing that up. I saw another hand somewhere. Where was it?
When you talked about being more, doing more, or finding your purpose, whatever, when I hear the word more, I think of the ego. In all my life, I've tried to be more or better or do something that was sensational to make me feel good. And now I know I understand Jesus doesn't care about what I do here. He cares about what's in my mind. Because when my mind is in peace, in joy, connected, whatever I do will be peaceful, loving, kind. So I know a lot of times you mentioned bringing the body and doing things of the world. It's kind of like I've got away from that. I don't even think about doing anything or being anything other than what I am. And I've been studying this course for 25, 30 years, and I've never dedicated myself to it. I've struggled, and I've had some very, very dark times. But it always kept on sucking me in because I kept on knowing. I've had a lot of resistance is what I've had. Jesus, everything. Just a lot of resistance. And now I've broken through a lot. I see when I'm in resistance now because I'm in pain. And no, when I'm in resistance, not liking something, the day or people or something, that's I know I'm not. I'm resisting love and peace but so anyway, when I wanted to break in before Nancy broke in because I thought it was contradictory. Your stories on being more or being something here. Jesus is telling us in the Course we're not bodies. So I know I'm trying to learn that. Remember that every minute. I'm not a body, I'm spirit. So if I think I have to do something here, other than guidance on just being and doing whatever I'm doing, that's where I want to stay, I guess is what I want to say. I don't know if you can relate to that. Yeah. So that's all I wanted to say. And like I say, because I know the ego always wants more, always wants better, always wants perfection, always wants something outside of my mind, where I know when I'm in my mind, I am that. I am enough. I have enough. Everything's perfect. So it's nothing out here. It'd be a total chaos with this awful situation. And it doesn't mean anything. So that's
perfect. Thank you. That is so great. And that's really what it is about to me. It really is just about that total commitment. And that's, again, it really is that place for me when I enter into that total commitment is when the pain does disappear. It's when the resistance goes. And that's the space that I'm talking about here today. It's not about doing anything in the world. And if there's something for you to do, you will be doing it. And it will be effortless. And you will see that you are in the world, but not of the world. And to me, what this means, commend your spirit back to God, is that you're not being bodies anymore, but you're in one, but it's not who you are. And you're allowing the spirit and the life of you to just take you to these places. And so to me, that's the commitment. This is what physician heal thyself really means. You have observed for yourself that this is hard to do. You have, however, been perfectly aware of just what others should do about it. So we're all really good about knowing what others should do, but we don't really know what we should do. And what's amazing too is when my advice works for others, but why isn't it working for me? I see all sorts of people healed around me. Why am I not being healed? It's because he's saying you must heal yourself. And so, do you think you might be disassociating yourself from your own awareness? Since you are so clear about the remedy for others, let me also remind you that to whatever extent you separate yourself from others, you are separating yourself from me. This is a collaborative venture. Let me therefore return your own ideas to you so that you can help me. This is all Jesus is calling us to do, is really take our place with him so that we can help him, he can help us. But first, let me remind you of something I told you myself. Whenever you are not wholly joyous, it is because you have reacted with a lack of love to some brother that God created. Perceiving this as sin, you become defensive because you expect attack. The decision to react in that way, however, is yours and can therefore be undone. It cannot be undone by repentance in the usual sense because this implies guilt. If you allow yourself to feel guilty, you will reinforce the error rather than allowing it to be undone for you. So see, you're not actually doing anything. It's being done for you, but you have to allow it to occur. You have to allow the undoing and the dismantling to occur. Decisions cannot be difficult. This is obvious if you realize that you must have already made a decision to not be wholly joyous if that is what you feel. So if you feel anything other than wholly joyous, that must have been your decision to feel whatever you're feeling. And that's the point of honesty that Jesus is calling us to. Therefore, the first step in the undoing is to recognize that you have actively decided wrongly, but you can as actively decide otherwise. Be very firm with yourself in this and keep yourself fully aware of the fact that the undoing process, which does not come from you, is nevertheless within you because God placed it there. And this is the part, this is it. And I'm so happy that we're like in our last few moments. This is how you heal yourself. This next sentence, and this is your part. Remember earlier, he says that I've told you your part. He's going to reinforce it again right now. Your part is merely to return your thinking to the point at which the error was made and give it over to the atonement in peace. So you have to find that place where the error was made. I already had made it sometime before I was 8 years old. Like I'd already made an error in my thinking before I wrote that letter to Santa Claus, that I was alone, that I had to bargain, that there was reciprocity. It was all there in that letter. That I was not worthy to just receive. That I had to ask for something and I had to give back and I had to be good. I've been a good girl. Dear Santa, I've been a good girl. Can I have 12 pencils and some paper and I'll give you 5 cents? So I'm returning my mind back. Your part is merely to return your thinking to the point. It's a point. There was a point in every single one of us in this room where your mind went right off center. Jesus calling. And then it says, and give it over to the atonement in peace. Say to yourself the following as sincerely as you can, remembering that the Holy Spirit will respond fully to your slightest invitation. So repeat after me. I must have decided wrongly because I am not at peace. I made the decision myself, but I can also decide otherwise. I will to decide otherwise because I want to be at peace. I do not feel guilty because the Holy Spirit will undo all the consequences of my wrong decision if I let him. I will to let him by allowing him to decide for God for me. Amen. I love you guys. So I think we're right at the end. What time is it? 5 minutes. Oh, yes. Come on up here. I want Becky to come up here and share something.
Go Becky. Go Becky. Okay, I'm kind of shocky. Okay. Yeah, I'm kind of shocky. Shocky. Okay, we were here a couple weeks ago. Chris Casanova, he turned us onto this book. And I know a lot of people have had this book, but I'm going to tell you what, it's my new Bible. It's my everything. A short little story, and this goes with what Lisa was saying. The other day at work, I work with all men, and they could be some nasty little guys, a lot of gossiping and like to stir up trouble and stuff like that. So I had one guy on the shift, and he's kind of got these mood swings anyway. And I called him, and he was like, rah, rah, rah. He hung up. I go, why are you being so mean today? He goes, well, you're mean, so I'm mean. So anyway, I find out what's going on with this dude, right? So my first initial thing is like, well, forget about him. In other words, I won't use those words on live streaming, whatever. So, and then I thought, hey, I have my book. I carry it with me everywhere. So I thought it must have some reference. So I'm like, I need to send him some love and forgiveness, and myself, to myself and then him. So what I found with this book is that it has all types of forgiveness in there. The first one I looked at, I'm like, it doesn't really fit the script here. So here's the one I found. This is going to go perfectly with what you said. It's February 26th. Forgiveness. All these have like little things on the top that tell you what that day kind of means. So it says, forgiveness merely means to change our minds. Many of us spend years resenting others' behavior. Maybe a sibling took advantage of us. Perhaps a parent never encouraged us in school. A teacher may have punished us for what a classmate did. A spouse may have had an affair. We can add to this list every day, but what's the point? Does it make us feel better? On the contrary, the more we focus on others' shortcomings, the more prevalent they seem, and the worse we feel. Being in conflict with one person strains our relationships with everyone. The absence of peace knows no bounds. More important, what we perceive as being out there is really our internal creation. Whatever happened yesterday or last year or 40 years ago or 5 minutes ago can be forgiven and forgotten in an instant. That's the key lesson of A Course of Miracles. We reap what we sow. All that is keeping happiness from us and our resistance to forgiving others. Let's change. How I look at my experiences today determines whether I add any resentments to my list. I will see only love. And within minutes, he called up and he was all nice. Because he's the one that will say to me, are you doing that thing to me again? I go, yep. I say, I'm sending you love and light, and I love you to pieces. And he goes, stop it. So our other one for today, and this is, what's this called? Daily Meditations for Practicing the Course by Karen Casey. I don't even think it's printed anymore because I had to buy these used. Yeah, and they were like $4 or something. I don't know what it was. So the one for today is the real world is not what I see. And at the very end, it says, the holy mind is real. All else the ego makes up. And so I think that's perfect. Namaste. And Lisa, you got it back. There we go.
You can stay up here. We're going to call everybody up now. And what I like about this is the immediacy of when you do the work,
Yes.
things happen. That guy called you. Boom. And this is again like where this becomes a great experiment, where this is a direct experience. You can't know it by thinking about it. You can't know it by reading the book. You actually have to forgive. You have to see with love. And you are the best at that. You see?
I am good at that.
You're the best at that.
I'm the best at it. I'm actually.
You're very good.
Being almost 58 years old, I still believe everybody's good until they show me otherwise.
Okay, one small little block there then.
I know. There is. Because it's it's going.
Yes, it's going. It is going. So if everybody can please join in a circle, we'll close in prayer.
Until they show me otherwise. Okay, one little but, one little until.
Do you want to pray, Frank? Do you want to pray us out?
Oh, God.
Close in prayer. Okay. So if anybody would like to make a contribution to help us pay for this room, there's a donation box in the back, and you can just leave a tithe or an offering. Whatever you can give is so fully appreciated because we love this space. We love being able to meet. And we say the blessing of the tithes and offerings, divine love,
as me, blesses and multiplies all I have, all I have, all that I give, and all that I receive.
And I've asked our awesome Frank to close us in prayer.
Okay. Well, Holy Spirit, please lead me in this. Okay. So God be with us all, as God always is. And may we all feel the presence of God in us and everyone else, and just see God in all that is. And just continue to do that. Thank you.
Awesome. Good job.
Yeah.